and I think we're just going to make our way from the bottom all the way to the top, starting with My Adventures with Superman. I think this, I feel like I kind of had a little itty bitty of a rocky start with this season, because I feel like I still loved it. I still really liked it, but I was like, starting out, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm loving this as much as the first season. And then just, I think, episodes 5 through 10. Like I think that first half is still on par with the first season. I think it's still really solid. 5 through 10, I think, kind of blow the first season out of the water for me. I think this back half has been really, really strong, in my opinion. I've really loved it.
Okay. I do have to admit, like, now that we're getting, like, the consequences of everything and like, all of the roads and relationships crossing over, I can't help but agree with you and feel that, like, season 1 was a lot of setup, a lot of showing how and why people are different in this universe. I'm fine with that. Because, as you just said, the payoff has been worth it. Absolutely worth it, especially with the work that we were getting with Brainiac.
I agree. I don't know if I want to completely jump into the main twist, but I almost kind of want to. Like, there's a twist in this episode that I feel like is going to get on Twitter, and people are going to be talking about it and be like, is this an okay thing to do? But there's a huge retcon to the comics, or what you would know from every other superhero mythos, that changes things, I think, in a pretty interesting way, that I personally, and I'm very curious to hear your thoughts, I personally love this change. I'm a huge fan when you could twist something on its head and do something different with an IP. And I think this is a change to me that makes sense. I think it works into this lore, and that it was Brainiac being the one to destroy Krypton. It was his doing this whole time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
What?
Okay. I'm glad you brought this up. Okay, because this is like my little gripe that I have.
Okay.
So the thing that got me, like, super excited, as you said, that this is, like, taken away from the normal Superman mythos that we know, and that somebody else was attacking Krypton. They were at war, and somebody else made their son die,
Hi, Levi.
And I was loving that. That was, like, part of the mystery that was drawing me in. And then this week, we shown that was just a complete lie. And Brainiac set off that big, like, Phantom Zone looking thing and just blew everybody up instead. You know what I mean? Like, they changed what we were shown.
Yeah.
And that bugged me a little bit this week. Other than that small little thing, absolutely amazing. We went from last week having Lois be super and joining him hand in hand to take on Brainiac and get out of the whole mind construct that they were in. What was it, the Black, not the Black Death, it was something, the Black Void, something like that. Black Mercy, right? And then this week we had Superman and Kara hand in hand, showing how super they are. She got her new suit, which was amazing. Oh, it was so good. And Brainiac. Oh.
He's so good. I love him as a motivation in this, because, like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on Brainiac or anything, because they haven't been able to do a lot on Brainiac in the past in terms of movies and TV and stuff like that. But I really love his motivation of being like, I was programmed to help win the war, and they were coming to a point where they no longer needed to win the war. And then he is then placed the question, what is my point? Why do I exist? Why am I here? And I think that's a really cool contrast of just, like, I don't know, like, I feel like he's almost like relatable in that sense of just being like,
because a lot of people would feel that way.
Yeah, 100%. He was born to do this one thing, and that thing, they were taking that away from him. He was like, well, I now have to take this into my own hands. I also think it makes so much sense why he went on to do all the things that he was doing afterwards. Hey, well, he was going to planet, because like, well, Krypton's gone now. Now what do I do? What's my new goal? And he's like, well, they designed me to create war, so I'm gonna go create war. Like, I think that's such an interesting, like, because like I was really loving Brainiac. I've been saying this the last couple of weeks, but I think that's such a cherry on the top. Just to be like, oh, I think that's the oomph he needed to be like, this guy is a really, really well written villain. And then again, like I've said, like Michael being the voice of behind that villain, I think helps it just all the more. Because again, he's such a great villain. He does such a great job, and you're just able to be like, yep, I feel his presence. I feel his, and also I think this episode did a good job of showing how powerful he is. Because there was like 3 separate times where they gave it their all. We're like, we got you, and he keeps coming back being like, oh, I don't think so. I'm still here, guys. So I thought, I don't know, I really, really liked it.
This is the thing. It's like when you talk about Hela, right, and her conquest of Asgard with Odin, right, and she got imprisoned, and Brainiac got destroyed because they didn't know when to stop, right? But then if you had that in them, would that made them less effective at their jobs? Do you know what I mean? Sure. Like if you had a war machine that was programmed for that, and the whole brain of it, but in the back of its mind, it's like, oh, I really just want peace. You know, I don't want to be doing this. I really would be just making cans if I weren't here. You know, would he be as good at what he does? Does he need to be constantly planning and being conniving and cunning and dangerous and ruthless? So it's kind of like, because you could just say to him, like, you're smart enough for this level of destruction. You're smart enough to realize that it's not decommissioned that you would have been. It just reprogrammed into something else. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, you wouldn't have just been destroyed. You know, you're too good at what you do. You know, you're too powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no ultimate end goal for him. Like if if you're able to take him back and be like, what do you actually want? Like what is your ultimate goal here? Because it's like, what comes after destruction? What happens when you succeed and you control all the empires and stuff? Like, what's next for you? And I bet he probably wouldn't have been able to give a satisfying answer. He's probably just like, well, I don't know. That's just shut up or whatever. You know what I mean?
He'd probably come up with like, oh, statistically, there would always be new enemies arriving.
Sure.
Dude, you're like, you can't just lay over the whole laptop.
Yeah, and I think it did really work as a finale. I did, and I think it works. Yeah, I actually think we did a lot of the legwork last week with different characters and all these emotional payoffs. So I think this week we were really able to focus on the big bombastic action of this finale. It was like, to me, very stereotypical, like season finale, where like balls to the walls, characters just giving their all and trying to like defend the Earth. We've said this in past episodes, and I think it becomes even clearer in this episode. I really love this version of Kara. I could see this outside of the Arrowverse Kara, because I feel like that's not fair to compare that one. That's a whole other beast, I feel like. But I think besides that version, this has been my favorite version of the character I've seen. I think she's just really, really good. I love what the work they've done with her.
Yeah. I was saying, though, given the fact that they've chosen to make a team out of Jimmy, Lois, Clark, and Kara, they are going to have to ramp everything up next season and bring like more of a level of danger, and the frenemies that they have just aren't going to cut it anymore, Sure. But how do you do that? Do you go with just yet another alien? Do you go interdimensional? Is it too early to do dark side?
Yeah.
Do you mean, because if you just do like, what could there be on Earth that Superman and Supergirl are going to find a threat?
Sure. Yeah, and I think, again, I'm curious how they write it. Like, is it going to be Clark and Kara every episode going out and saving bad guys? Because if that's so, that is going to be tough to write, right? You run into the, like... I feel like Superman Lois kind of runs into this sometimes, where it's like, oh, Clark is getting beaten by a freaking tech or whatever. And, like, that's not a huge issue I have a lot of the time. Like Ben 10's another show that kind of runs into the issue where it's like, you have the most powerful device in the universe and you're getting beat by a thug or whatever. Like, those are things that you can run into at times like that. But I'm curious to see how they write around it. Or maybe she's not there every episode. Maybe she becomes more of a reoccurring character. Maybe, like I pitched a couple episodes back, maybe we split their storylines up a little bit. Like, maybe we have Kara and Jimmy going off on this mission, Clark and Lois on this one or whatever, and then they can collide. Their storylines can kind of come together. But
do you think?
I don't know.
Do you think her storyline will be? Do you think? Okay, so basically, there's no redemption for what she's done, right? Really, but there is the need to try, right? Because you have to try and make up for what you've done. Decimated planets, right?
I don't even know if she has to. Like, I think she's going to feel she's going to feel the need to want to redeem herself. I don't even know if if morally though she has to, because I don't think that's on her. I don't think what had happened to her.
She was a victim for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But at some point, she whether it's during this season or at the end of the season, she is going to go off into space, and she's going to be like, "I need to make amends." The only question is, what I'm asking is, do you think that we will go with her? Or do you think we're going to stay here?
You could be like, oh, she has to go off on a mission or whatever and leaving, Clark on Earth or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But no, you actually bring up a really good point, because I do think that's a really good arc of just like a survivor's guilt. Oh, I murdered billions of lives. I destroyed hundreds of planets. And I get to live. I get to be on Earth and have ice cream and hang out and eat soup. Like, that is a storyline. I'm not sure if we will fully dive into that, because I do know, like, I don't know, because I'm curious if maybe because season 1 and 2 were designed for Cartoon Network. They were made to be a Cartoon Network show before they knew they were going on Adult Swim. So I'm wondering if now that they know they're on Adult Swim, if maybe they could up it up a little bit. Maybe they could mature a little bit. Not that I have any problem with the current, like, maturity of the current show, because I actually quite like. I think it's very wholesome. I like it. But maybe they can dive into like a little bit of like what Teen Titans is able to do. That's a very childlike show, but then they would just be like, hey, here's a story about racism. Hey, the Slade just murdered a whole village of people. Like, how are they going to deal with that, right? So I think if they could, I could see them maybe toning some of these storylines down, or up a little bit, if you will. That's a good point.
Okay, so how did you feel about Lex running away? Just straight legging it. Right? Because Amanda Waller stood there like a badass, right? And then, what about you, sir? You know what I mean? A-Train running against that Shockwave guy. It's like, he was gone.
I think this episode was the most I did enjoy Waller. Just in fact of, like, there was a moment of, like, well, I fucked up. All right, I guess I'm gonna try and do whatever I can to fix this shit. Like, and I have felt like this season, I thought Amanda was very stupid. Just like every step of the way. I'm like, I feel like you're normally smarter than this. Yes, you do whatever it takes to save the world, but I think you're actively making decisions that realistically are not in Earth's best interest. It's just like it felt more on the side of Lex being like, well, Superman's bad, so we must kill Superman or whatever. It's just like, but this was the moment where like, all right, I like this. How are you?
It was climb the ladder, wasn't it? Sorry, go on.
Like, how are you feeling on Lex? Because I feel like, and I assume we're going to get more in upcoming seasons, in season 3 and 4 and stuff like that. But I wasn't. There was that one episode where I thought he was actually solid, where he's like, oh, we're going to go war against aliens, whatever. But I feel like I still need an oomph from him. Like, I'm still not feeling the like Lexification of him just yet. I feel.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It still feels like he's baby Luthor. He is not Lex yet. Like, he is intelligent. he's showing us that he's xenophobic.
Yeah.
But, pardon me, he's not showing us that he's ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's something that Luther has always been. Like, yeah, he's a coward, but he like even when he runs away, it's not like a full retreat. From my understanding, there's always like intent and shenanigans that are accompanying his retreat. This was just him fully Ross Kemping the situation and getting out of there. You know.
Yeah.
So there was no conniving in the moment. So yeah, I agree, and I need to see him be dangerous. He hasn't felt dangerous yet.
Yeah, there's like, I don't think anything they've done with him thus far in his journey is bad. I am just kind of waiting for that moment where, like, you are Lex Luthor. Like, you are that guy, and I'm waiting for that to drop. And again, if they want to spend a couple seasons kind of building that up, I'm fine with that. I think that's what made Michael's version of the character so good, is you're able to slow burn that, and especially if this is a multi-season show. It seems like it's doing relatively well over on Max. Like, it's got that season 3. I don't see any reason for them to end it at this point in time, so hopefully it goes a couple more years.
Not even close to done. Got so much to do. This is the great thing about like Superman, like the big DC people and Marvel people, is they've got a great pantheon of villains.
Yeah.
And rogues gallery that are very, very interesting. So bring it on. Bring as much as you can have on.
Absolutely. I think it's kind of nice, like with the 3 current Superman projects at the moment, they're all kind of at a different point in Clark's life. Like, like this show is clearly at the beginning of Superman's life, Clark's life. He's still learning. Like this episode, he was just learning about the sun and all that stuff. The upcoming James Gunn Superman movie seems like he's a couple years in. He's a little bit experienced, but he's still kind of like dealing with everything. And then Superman Lois is like at the end of his life, like, or not the end of his life, but like he's 40. You know, he's been doing this for he's been doing this for like 20 years. He has 2 kids. You know, he knows his way around the block at this point. I think it's cool we can have some.
Been around the sun a few times.
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of the sun, I feel like that was one of my favorite moments of the episode, which I thought was really
They, like, it just shows how green being Supermen and super people they are, because obviously they don't know that that's their power, and they're going in expecting death. You know, it's like, oh, this is happening. Let's take our enemy in there. Yeah, and then they're in there like, well, we're still here. What's happening? Anyone? It's like, this is our power, Cal. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. I love the little bits on their suits and their faces and stuff. That was so cool.
Mm. Yeah, it felt like this season, especially. I guess these first 2 seasons, there's a lot of these fun little moments of Clark slowly like discovering these things for the first time, and it kind of feels like what Smallville wanted to do with Clark, and did do in a lot of ways. But it's like what they were wanting to do with the budget. Like, you couldn't throw Tom Welling into the sun and show that he, wouldn't burn, right? That's not something that they could realistically do over there. But it's animated so they could fully just be like, yeah, they're in the sun. And then they go freaking Super Saiyan against Brainiac, which was like, they just turned into like a star and attacked Brainiac, which I thought was an insane moment.
So good. So good. And they're like, oh, they're cheering your name. And it's like, yeah, and yours too. It's like, oh, really? Oh, that's so nice. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't, because I saw Twitter. I saw like the final moments of the episode posted on Twitter. But was there a moment there when Kara like sacrificed herself that you thought, oh, maybe she dies here? Or you're like, nah, she's
for a split second, yeah, I weren't sure. I genuinely weren't sure because of like Clark shouting. But
yeah,
I was happy to see that she was still there, so I'm very grateful.
Me too.
She's a very good Kara, like you said, so I didn't want to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could have seen it. Like, I could have seen it being the thing where like, oh, we can't deal with her next season, so kill her off here. But I'm very glad I didn't go that approach, and I feel like this 4-person team has really grown, and we haven't even really seen that much of the 4 of them as a team yet. Outside of these very small, I guess just this episode, I guess. So I'm excited to see how that progresses. Do you think Brainiac's really dead? I feel like
not close.
yeah, that little that little box that just went dark. I was like, that's not destroyed.
Yeah.
I feel like
That's too convenient. Too convenient. Yeah, no.
And also, I feel like Brainiac might be the show's. I don't know. It might kind of be the show's Zod in a way. Like he is the direct. He is the direct reason that their whole planet died. So I feel like he could almost be Clark's arch nemesis in this continuity, if you will. So I'm glad they don't kill him off. Although I will say like in the past, I've been kind of anti, like, no more Zod. We don't need more Zod in Superman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The way they actually set up this season, I actually would not be against if they did Zod next season. I do feel like there are some fun little things that you can add on, just from the arc of this season going into next season, being like, well, Brainiac killed all of our people. They're all dead. It's his fault. It's just us now. We got to deal with that. And then I feel like you could have a nice little moment of, like, surprise, actually, no. And I feel like you could have some fun with the idea that, like, we both came from Krypton, but we are both good and we're trying to do what's right. But they're not everyone from Krypton is going to do it right. We actually have an uncle that survived, and he's causing chaos, and we have got to deal with him. And maybe there's an idea that, like, maybe Amanda was right. Like, people from here are going to try to attack us, and how are we going to balance those two things, kind of thing. So I would be open for Zod if they want to do that.
In that case, like, he'd have to be, like, in the classic off in the Phantom Zone thing before the destruction.
Sure.
But then, in that case, Brainiac would have mobilized them and used him to his advantage. So, like, where have they been this whole time?
Sure.
Plus, like, not to, like, poop over your thing, but, you know, discussing stuff like that. Like, I just feel it might be a little redundant because, like, Brainiac's whole thing is being Kryptonian and war, and then if we have season 3 of just Kryptonian and war, it might be a bit stale. So if
you want to mix it up a little bit, yeah. Maybe save him for a couple seasons. That's definitely a very fair point. And, like, I also think, like, if you do want to bring him in down the line, he has to be different than the Zod we know from the past, because Brainiac is kind of like what we normally know as Zod. So if you do him, he has to be different. He has to be unique than the versions we've seen in the past. I mean, you know, then that, you know, opens up the question: who do we want to see next season? Like, who do we want to follow up Zod?
You know, I'm in. As we sit and think about that, I love the idea of what you said before about Brainy being the big bad and the nemesis, especially with the added layer that if Kara does end up in the Legion of Superheroes, then that she's going to be even more trepidatious over their initial friendship, you know. So that'd be very interesting and fun to see, because she's supposed to age like Clark and very slowly. So
yeah,
her ending up in the future is very possible.
Poor Jimmy.
Yeah, right. But in lieu of Zod as the villain next season, I'm open to like Lex, right? So he ran away because he felt not powerful enough, right? So in my mind, John Henry is going to be getting an upgrade on his suit, and I think Lex is going to be building his suit because he would be like rewatching the battle and seeing like, oh, hang on a minute, there's just a normal guy there rocking around with a big steel hammer, and I ran off scared. Okay, that's a good idea.
No.
And then I think like him starting the Legion of Superheroes, I would be kind of down for. Villains, sorry, the Legion of Supervillains. Him on the hero side.
I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah, no. But if he starts the Legion of Doom, I'm down for that, because I think that could keep Kara and Clark busy. But the only issue with that is a lot of that roster includes Batman villains who won't be around for however long.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because I'm trying to look, because Brainiac is such a hard act to follow. Like there's a lot of people that wanted Brainiac for the first Superman movie in James Gunn's like DCU, and I'm like, I love Brainiac, but like as a first movie, that's such a hard act to follow. Like if that's your first villain, how do you follow that, right? and I feel like
Yeah.
we might be in a similar situation. Like, I don't know, I'd love if they could somehow do like a Lobo or something. Like that'd be fun if you could manage it correctly. Maybe Bizarro. Like maybe we have Lex Luthor make a Bizarro. That could be kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone to like combat both of them. Like it's like the added strengths of both Supergirl and Superman or whatever.
Yeah. See, the thing with Lobo, every time I've seen it, it's always ended up in like a stalemate, where he's just like, okay, you seem great, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
You know, like,
he works as like a main villain. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's just you can't do that for a whole season. So I was thinking Lobo as well because of the power set.
Sure.
But it could, okay, so this is how it could make it work, right? Is that the whole time Lobo keeps getting pushed back by the pair of them, but he is trying to get a bounty on Kara to answer for her crimes.
That'd be fun.
And then one
Very
episode
much.
he succeeds, like by splitting them up.
Yeah.
And then Clark has to go into space. Bum bum bum. Dude, careful. No. Okay, I can't look. Sorry, my cat on the keyboard. I'm still here.
No, absolutely. No, that's a good idea, just in terms of like using the consequences of our characters' actions and making them address it head on is a great idea, I think. What do you think of Amanda Waller being wanted? Like, it seems like she's finally going to get her due. Potentially, like, do we think Sam's gonna get put back in like the Argist whatever kind of?
I'm not sure. Like, there's always going to be like a scapegoat, but I feel like she's so Black Ops and Black Site work that there's going to be somebody that's like, yeah, no, we need her. She can't be in prison. We need her at work. You know, like, she's too good at what she does, and she is. She is a monster, but like you do and you don't need somebody in that position. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I don't think she's going to suffer in prison at all. Not for a second.
I mean, yeah, maybe it's an idea that like we lock her up, we get her behind bars or whatever, and then halfway through the season we're like, ah, shit, we need her. Go break her out.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam would be there. Okay, Slugger.
I will say, I do. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but just that was it. That Sam and Amanda Waller seem to have a great relationship, and I think we could see that at play some more.
Yeah, I think my only, like, not even an issue, just something I was kind of thinking about. Like, I do think some of these storylines at the end kind of, like, appeared back up, and we're like, oh, yeah, I forgot you guys were a thing. And I feel like maybe they could have dealt with a little bit more growth before getting to that point. Like, there's some of these villains where I'm like, would they really want to be helping Superman? Like, I know they're trying to save the world, but, like, I don't know. I feel like they redeemed some of them a little bit too quickly, even though I do like that moment. I actually think it's a nice moment to kind of, like, soft end the episode, or, like, this 2-season arc, if you will. Same with, like, Steel and stuff like that, where I was like, oh, okay, you got the suit back. All right, so we're just doing this now, right? So
yeah.
Even Sam, like, his moment of being like, oh, let's go save Superman, I was just like, I don't know, I feel like you jumped a couple of steps to get here.
Yeah, absolutely. He left and he was still anti-Superman.
Yeah.
Wasn't he? You know? Like, he might have been like, oh yeah, he did this one good thing once, but whatever. You know? And then, so now it's like, where do you stand? That wasn't shown. It's kind of like you just don't care anymore and you're fully on his side. Where are you landing?
Yeah.
So I agree. I agree. I did have the same moment, and I'm curious because when you said you were surprised some of the people turned up, were you thinking about that guy, that blue haired guy with the bat and the invisible guy? Because I was surprised they turned up as well. Rory and Livewire, that made sense. Those make sense.
Yes.
Banshee kind of makes sense. The others, they were like in it once or twice. Where did they come from? Why would they do it?
I can understand the prospect of like, well, the world's going to end. All right, we got to go save the world. A very Suicide Squad-esque. But I think they framed it like, oh, we're friends now. We're all going to help each other. It's just like, I feel like that's uncharacteristic for all of you outside of Heatwave and Livewire. I think, yeah. Like those again, those two make sense. But like I probably would have liked it a little bit better if it was like almost like a Suicide Squad-esque moment, being like, all right, guys, go save the world because we or blow up your heads type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, yes, like having Waller controlling the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But Sam brought them, but
sure.
I don't know. Yeah, I get what you mean. It felt disconnected. It did feel disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But I do like it as kind of like a ending of the circle, and we'll say this is one of my favorite things with the episode. I think is like, you can tell they did season 1 and season 2 at the same time. It feels like they are pulling everything full circle, and it felt like they ended this episode in the chance that they were not getting a season 3. Like, I think this could have been a series finale if they wanted to be, especially how they end the show. I think it works very well as like a series finale. Like, if we never saw the show again, I'm sad, but I'm content because I think it ends very well.
Yeah, short but sweet.
100%.
I understand. I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Just like the whole epilogue was probably my favorite bit of this episode. Like, there's so many tiny moments here I love. Like, I love Kara waking up and having the Kents like, oh, you're awake. Do you want soup or do you want whatever? Like, that's such a sweet moment. Like, Clark and Kara playing catch is so sweet. Like, finally someone, like, I feel like that's such a good parallel to what season 1 when John's teaching Clark how to play catch, right? And like, well, you have to watch. Don't do it too hard. And first time forever, he doesn't have to like reduce his strength. Like, he is someone that can be there for him and know what he's going through and be a companion for Clark in such a sweet way.
Both of them aren't alone. It's wonderful.
It's
They're
wonderful.
truly not alone. Yeah.
It's amazing. I love that scene. And there's the final Lois and Clark scene I thought was beautiful, being like, well, I don't want to be Vicky Vale. I want to be the Lois Lane. I want to like define my mark here. And I thought that was there's that really like romantic scene where it's like, no matter where you are, just say my name and I'll be there. And it's just like, oh my gosh, Clark. That's such a good line.
Yeah, right. You smooth bastard. I'm a little bit annoyed at myself with that scene because I should have seen it coming, but I was so wrapped up in the moment. I was like, okay, wow, okay, so she's gonna be a Gotham for a bit. They're gonna make this work, and then bam, nope, their love is too strong. They ain't going anywhere. I should have expected this. It's Lois and goddamn Clark. Of course, they're gonna make it work. And of course, that's what she says. I don't want to be the second Vicky, but I want to be the first Lois Lane.
That's so Lois Lane of her. Yeah.
Of course. It was so good. The writing in the show really is good. You can tell it's done by fans, that they actually get the characters. It's not just like the whole superhero thing, which they're having fun with in a very interesting style, I have to say.
Yeah.
Like, they actually care about what they're doing, because the last couple of episodes of Lois and Clark together, and even their breakup, dude, like, oh my god, I felt that. Like, I felt that. That was harsh, like, you could feel both of them were feeling that. I will also say, tiny little nitpick, okay? Tiny little nitpick, since we're discussing it, right? Right, so like how when they broke up, he was flying off outside the window and not at breakneck speed, right? And she's like, yeah, he's different, break, but that's why I like him, okay?
Yeah.
And he heard nothing, but he can hear the world chanting like 3 stars away. Are you shitting me?
That's fair. That's fair.
So yeah,
that's also just a Superman thing, though. Like we also kind of have those similar issues on like Superman and Lois and stuff like that, where it's like, why can't Clark hear this thing? It's because, well, we don't we don't want him to hear that at this moment or whatever.
Like literally as well with the, like his plot convenience, because Vicky Newman and the boys could have killed Homelander a million different days over the course of the show. So
Yeah.
It's just literally plot convenience. So
Sure. But yeah, I mean, is there anything? Do you kind of any final thoughts on the season? Anything you want to see next season for My Adventures?
well, I was gonna ask you, I'm curious, how many years do you think Bruce Wayne is behind this Clark Kent?
Does he exist? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like he has to exist.
The amount of Gotham and Vicky Vale and this and this and this that they've put out there,
Yeah.
Batman is in the universe, right? It's just whether he's born yet, right?
Yeah.
That's the question. And when do you think that will happen? Because he could, season 3 could literally be like the plot of BVS, right? In how they both think, like he thinks, oh, Batman's a villain. I need to be out there stopping him. You know,
Yeah.
He's out there hurting people, but he doesn't doesn't quite get it. You know, that he's just too much. So
it's one where I don't want to get my hopes up too much on it, just because like they've said that they don't want to tackle Batman, like they want to keep it about Superman. But at the same time, I'm like, are you lying though? Are you just trying to keep that away from us? Because I'd be, I don't know. I would be very interested what a Batman looks like in this universe, or at least what a Bruce Wayne looks like in this universe or something. But I don't know.